Hi, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to first time here. My name is Rebecca. I am a mama of 3 little ones, ages 4 and under, so we're a family of 5. And for today's video, I thought I would take you through 5 different dinners from our kitchen, my kitchen, whatever. They are healthy, pretty easy, most of them. They are family favorites, so all of them are tested and not the first time I made them. Yeah, so maybe I can give you some inspiration. So let's go and get started on cooking. For today's video, I have some barbecue chicken with mashed potatoes and broccoli, a deconstructed enchilada bake, then meatloaf with pasta and green beans, gnocchi soup, and regular enchiladas with homemade tortillas. And we're starting off with the barbecue chicken here. I'm making that in the crock pot. So we're starting off with the chicken here, making that in the crock pot. I will put all the recipes down in the description box. We're starting off with some brown sugar and some barbecue sauce. I had some homemade barbecue sauce, really easy. I will put the recipe for that in the description box as well. And some apple cider vinegar, as well as a little bit of olive oil and some onion powder. Onion powder and paprika powder. You mix that up really well in the crock pot, and then you just add some chicken in there, some chicken breast. Cover the chicken breast with the sauce and let that cook in the crock pot. You can decide if you want to do it longer on low or for shorter on high. As I said, I will put the exact measurements in the description box. I'm not 100% sure because I've never tried it, but I can imagine that you could do that on the stovetop as well, just in a big pot, on a really low heat for a long time. I think that might work as well. I don't know what would speak against that, but I think it might work. And then for the mashed potatoes, I just cut up a lot of potatoes. Don't be afraid with the measurements. I'm doing bigger batches first because a lot of the times we ate together with other family members. So it was most of the times 2 more adults. And then also I often do more, so we have leftovers for lunches or another dinner. That's really practical in my opinion, why I already added. So yeah, you cook your potatoes until a fork can go through and they're just soft, and then you add some butter and some milk, some salt and pepper, and then you can also do some other spices if you want to. I did garlic powder or onion powder before, but I didn't do that this time around. I think it was just salt and pepper this time. And then you just mash it up. You can do that with a handheld mixer or a stand mixer. I just always take out my little mashing tool and do it by hand. That's the easiest for me. But yeah, obviously it doesn't get as fine as it would with a mixer. And then for the chicken, when it's done and all cooked through, you can just shred that with 2 forks, or you could also do that with your handheld mixer. But it is really easy to shred that chicken. And then I just always leave it in the sauce for a few more minutes so that the sauce can coat all of the chicken really well. And I just steamed some broccoli on the side. The next recipe is the deconstructed enchilada bake, and I did that with a lot of different veggies. This time around I did it with onion, bell pepper, celery, and zucchini. And I did it vegetarian, but you could really easy add some meat if you want to. Some shredded chicken would go well, or also ground beef or something like that. That would go really well, but we just eat mostly vegetarian, so that's why 3 out of the 5 recipes are vegetarian, but easy to add meat if you want to. And I also did that before with butternut squash. Completely different taste, but same procedure actually. You just saute some onion, then you saute some butternut squash, and then do all the other steps just as I will show it to you here now. But this time I did it with onions and as I said, bell peppers and celery and zucchini. So you just start by sauteing the onion, add the bell pepper and the celery to the pot. You want to let that saute and soften for a few minutes before you're adding your zucchini, because the zucchini just doesn't take as long to cook. But yeah, as I said, you could also do different veggies if you prefer that. Then I always add some salt after the zucchini was sauteed for 2 minutes, because it brings out the water in the veggies a bit and let them cook a little faster, I feel like. While that was still cooking and sauteing and the veggies were getting soft, I cut up my tortillas. I had some whole wheat tortillas from the store because I definitely had no time to do them myself this time around, but you will see homemade tortillas later in the video if you're more up to that. And yeah, as you can see, I've cut them in those little squares. To the mixture in the pot, I added black beans, corn, and some homemade enchilada sauce, because that's simple, because we don't have enchilada sauce that you can buy in the store here in Germany. At least I haven't seen it before, so I did it myself and it's really, really easy, so I would recommend that. I can put the recipe down in the description box as well. Then I also added some cumin, some black pepper, and the tortilla pieces. As you can see, my pot was definitely a little too full, but that's okay. I managed to mix it all up, and then I added it to 2 glass dishes that were able to that I'm able to put in the oven. Added some cheese on top, and then you just bake them in the oven and they're good to go just until cheese is melted. And yeah, as you can see, I did a double batch, so that was a double rest. But it's definitely super good for meal prep as well. Just put it in the fridge with a lid on top and add the cheese the next day, bake it, and you're good to go. So next thing is a meatloaf with a ketchup glaze, and I just did pasta and green beans on the side with that. You start by using 2 slices of sandwich bread. You could use breadcrumbs instead, but I prefer the sandwich toast, sandwich bread. And I just had my homemade sourdough, but you can obviously use whatever kind you have at home. And then you just soak that in some water for around 10 minutes. Then you cut up an onion, and I try to cut it as fine as possible because we don't like big onion chunks in our meatloaf, and it also makes it more crumbly and harder to stay in one shape. So that's why I'm cutting it really fine. Then to a glass baking dish, I add my ground beef, some salt, pepper, then also garlic powder and paprika powder. And then I add the onion and also the soaked sandwich bread. Make sure to really press out as much water as possible. So you don't want it all watery in there. You want just the soaked bread, but not all the water. So you really have to squeeze out the water. So to that mixture, I also added some ketchup. I did not really measure, but I think it was around half a cup. I will put some measurements in the description box below. And then also 2 eggs. And then I kneaded that all together and formed it into a meatloaf shape inside of my glass baking dish. And then you just want to put it in the oven and bake it for around 40 minutes, but as I said, I will put the recipe in the description box. While the meatloaf was baking, I started with my green beans. I washed them really well, and then I cut away the ends, and I just cooked them in some water for around, I think I did 15 minutes. We like them a little bit softer, not so crunchy, but you do whatever time seems right to you until they're your desired softness or crunchiness. I also started my pasta. It was just store-bought white egg noodles that I did that suit really well in my opinion. You could also do like the mashed potatoes from my first recipe to go with that. And for the glaze, I added some ketchup, some brown sugar, and some salt to a little bowl. Mix that all up. And after the 40 minutes, I added the glaze on top of the meatloaf and put it back into the oven for additional 20 minutes. As you can see, it makes for a really yummy, crispy, but also soft and tender meatloaf that all of us enjoy. You should have seen my kids. Like, I haven't been doing a meatloaf in a while, and then I did it back in December for Christmas Eve. And my kids were eating that meatloaf like crazy. It was all gone, and we were so shocked. So then I did it a few more times since then because they really liked it. For the gnocchi soup, I started to cut up and prep all my veggies. I did carrots, celery, onions, bell pepper, and zucchini. You can tell these are kind of like my go-tos for those kind of recipes. I don't know, they're just, in my opinion, really easy. My kids like all of them, so that's a win. And yeah, I think they're just a good combination for a lot of different sauces and dishes. This is also, I did this recipe also vegetarian, but again, you could add meat, obviously, if you would like to. I did lentils for some extra protein and yeah, also other health benefits. But yeah, instead of lentils, you could use some kind of meat. Then you start by sauteing your onion in some butter. I just love the smell of sauteed onions in butter. I think that smells really, really good. Added my carrot, celery, and bell pepper to the mixture and sauteed that for a few minutes. And when my veggies were a little bit soft, I transferred them to a bowl because I wanted to make a little, what is it called? A little roux. So I added some more butter to my pot, and then I added some flour. And now you gotta be a little bit careful so that you don't get a ton of lumps. So you have to be a little bit more quick, and I prefer to use a whisk for that. So you whisk in the flour, let that cook for around 2 minutes, the flour butter mixture, and I will put some measurements in the description box, but I honestly only go by looks. And then you add your milk slowly, a little bit at a time, and keep whisking and whisking. Yeah, I added some more milk and then also a can of diced tomatoes, as well as some vegetable broth, or actually added some water, and then I added some vegetable broth powder a little later, but yeah, some veggie broth or whatever kind of broth you want. So here I added my veggie broth powder, and then also added some paprika powder as well as some black pepper. I added my veggies back in and added some red lentils. And a little bit later I also added my zucchini and let that cook for a little while. It actually ended up burning when I was not looking at it so closely. And yeah, the lentil just got stuck to the bottom of the pot. That's why you will see later here that I have a different pot now. It was all fine, it just stuck a little bit, and I was able to transfer all the others to a different pot, but have a closer eye on that because the lentils tend to go onto the bottom and stick there. So yeah, just give it a good stir from time to time. When all of that was really cooked through, I added some gnocchi. I had those red beet gnocchis and some regular gnocchis. As you can see, again, a really big pot because we had company over. So it definitely is a crowd feeder, and it might not look as appetizing, but it was really, really good, and everybody really enjoyed that. So for the enchiladas with homemade tortillas, I started with the tortilla dough. And I did sourdough before, but this time around I had no time, so just did the regular flour tortilla recipe. And I will put the recipe down in the description box as well. But as you can see, it is super easy ingredients. Just flour, water, salt, baking powder, olive oil. You probably already have that at home. They're really, really good. So I encourage you to try them out if you haven't done homemade tortillas before. You just add all the ingredients to your stand mixer, or you can knead that by hand if you don't have a stand mixer. Then you put the dough onto a floured surface, and this recipe says to divide into 12 parts. I only did 10 because I wanted them a little bit bigger so that they would be easier to get filled. So yeah, I divided them into 10 pieces instead. Then you take each piece, roll it into a little bowl, put it on the floured surface, try to flat it a little bit with your palm of your hand, and then you cover it with a kitchen towel for around 20 to 30 minutes to let the gluten rest. And yeah, after that you just roll them. Make sure to have a floured surface so that they don't stick. And yeah, because if they stick, they might break because you want them really, really thin. So you have to be a little bit careful. The first one or two often get not as great, but then you will get into the swing. And then you just cook them for around 1 minute per side, so really fast and easy. Yeah, and then they're done. I always put them on the plate and then cover them with a kitchen towel so they stay softer. So I didn't show you the chili preparation here. It was chili from the day before. And I often do that. When I do chili, I do enchiladas the next or the 2 days after to use up my leftover chili, but don't do the exact same thing. And for the chili, there was a vegetarian chili. You could use whatever kind of chili you like. If you don't know how to cook a chili, it's super easy. I showed it before in several videos, I think, because we're doing that quite a lot. All of my kids like it. I do like a rainbow chili with a lot of veggies, and still all my kids are eating it like crazy. They often have like thirds or something, and I'm talking about my 18-month-old twins, so as well as my 4-year-old, but yeah, also my 18-month-old twins are eating like 3 bowls of chili often, because they really like it. Yeah, you just saute different kind of veggies or meat if you want some meat. You add diced tomatoes, corn, black beans. Maybe I can put a chili recipe down below or a video where I show it, something like that. But for the enchiladas, you take a tortilla, you put in some sour cream, you add some chili, and then you roll it up really tight. If something leaks, it's not that big of a deal. You put it in a glass or like any kind of baking dish, add some more chili on top of it, add some cheese, and bake it in the oven for around 20 minutes or until your cheese is melted and bubbly and the way you want it. And that's it. It is easy, and if you have leftover chili, the perfect dish. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope those recipes were inspiring to you. Really, we love all of them. They are family favorites, and I can highly recommend to try them out. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I would love to hear from you here. Have a wonderful week, and I would love to see you in my next one. Bye.